All right, it is another bright Tuesday morning right here on Morning Cafe. Karibu sana. My name is Fred Indimuli. The very last day of mourning out of the 7 days of national mourning following the passing on of the Right Honorable former Prime Minister Raila Odinga. He's still on the front pages today following more honors yesterday, 2 days after he was buried. And that will be part of our big discussion today. 21st of October 2025. Karibu sana. Let's take a look at the dailies this morning. Shujaa wa Mashujaa. Yesterday they were talking about Shujaa because it was Mashujaa Day, and is now Shujaa wa Mashujaa Taifa Leo. On the Daily Nation, Raila shadow looms over Mashujaa Day. Same theme. No, even before we move on, Kenya's politics without Raila, without BAMBA, and I think that's the biggest discussion. What happens next? And everyone is talking about now what happens next. Where do we turn? Right? The Standard, honored in death. Yesterday he received an honor. We'll be taking a look at the details there. And People Daily, Raila honored by state as ODM power battle kicks off. Pages 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 of the People Daily dedicated to that. The Star, same thing. Ruto to craft new power plan upon Raila exit. Hey, Raila, I tell you. And on the Business Daily, at least we move on from Raila. 11.5 million Safaricom customers leaked data deal collapses. And we'll be coming back, take a look at the details of that story. We'll be looking at those headlines and others with my panelists at 6:30 this morning. Do stand by for that. For now, let's cross over and take a look at what's big in Uganda. Job cuts loom in UN agencies. That's a big story on the front page of the Daily Monitor. Financial squeeze, they call it. The proposals by UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres seek to optimize efficiencies and effectiveness by reducing duplication and streamlining operations. The story is on page 2 of this paper. Matters campaigns continue. Museveni gives Moses Ali nod for 2026 race. And of course, he's been handing flags to people who are vying for MP positions in Uganda. And this gentleman that many Kenyans have been criticizing because he looks a bit elderly was yesterday handed the flag. He's called General Moses Ali. Yes, he's a candidate for Adjumani West MP race. And yesterday he was handed over the official flag of the NRM and allowed to vie for that seat. That's a big story there. NDA recalls deadly drug. That's Troy heavy. Yeah, it's a dangerous drug. The National Drug Authority, NDA in Uganda, has ordered an immediate recall of all batches of the anesthesia drug Bupitroy heavy from the Ugandan market. You can read more on that on page 3 of this paper. That's the Daily Monitor. The New Vision still in Uganda. GAD thugs raid 16 arcade shops. Mobile money, Forex Bureau businesses targeted. It's about an incident that happened at a business arcade where I think CCTV footage caught the guard of the place and some 16 thugs raiding some of the shops there. Meanwhile, Museveni campaigns in Adjumani, and that's where he was handing over the flag to General, it's called General who? General Moses Ali. So that features there on the front page of the New Vision. Elsewhere, Chagulani, that's Bobby Wine, Mafabi, the other presidential candidate, and Muntu, woo voters, they continue their campaigns a few months to elections. UNEB security officer dies mysteriously. Napale Juu Prime Minister Nabanja and Twina Masiko reconcile. Ni kama walikuwa wamekosana pale. Full story on page 2, New Vision. We cross over to Tanzania. We start off with the Mwananchi. Mapya nyumba ya mjane, serikali ya mkabidhi hati yake ya baini nyaraka kugushiwa. Upande wa pili wapinga uamuzi, Chalamila ampa Yusufali siku 5. Ni msimamo wa Chalamila hapa, anasema natoa siku 5 Yusufali aje mwenyewe kwa mkuu wa mkoa, maana siku ya tukio la Babunsa kuondolewa huyu mama alikuwepo baada ya kuona mambo yamekuwa magumu, hayupo nchini. Ni mjane ambaye alikuwa anasema ni kama mali yake nataka kupokonywa, lakini sasa amesema, imesemekana koti imesema arejeshewe nyumba hiyo. Masuala ya siasa, siku 8 kabla ya uchaguzi mkuu, Samia ahidi neema barabara ya Kilwa, amtwisha zigo Ulega. Habari kamili kwenye ukurasa wa 3. Kumbuka ni siku 8 tu kabla ya uchaguzi mkuu tarehe 29 mwezi wa Oktoba kule Tanzania. Inamaanisha zimesalia siku 6 pekee kwa wanaowania viti tofauti kupiga kampeni. Kwingineko, waliojaribu kumteka Tarimo jela miaka 7. Mfanyabiashara Deogratius Tarimo akipambana kujinasua kutoka kwa watu waliotaka kumteka Novemba 11 mwaka jana. Ndio picha ile. Wale watu waliojaribu kumteka na wako pale kwenye picha wamepatiwa miaka 7 korokoroni. Pale juu, hatma video Lissu kesi ya uhaini kesho. Hatma ya kupokewa kwa picha mjongeo inayomwonyesha mwenyekiti wa Chadema, wa chama cha demokrasia Chadema. Ni baadhi tu ya video na mambo mengine ambayo anatumia kujitetea kwenye kesi ya uhaini inayomkabili kule Tanzania. Gazeti la Mwananchi. Tukisalia kule Bongo, tuangazie gazeti la The Citizen. Masuala ya biashara yakipewa upaumbele kwenye gazeti hili. AI's crucial role in universal health coverage introduction. As Tanzania moves forward with the implementation of universal health insurance, stakeholders have underscored the crucial role of artificial intelligence in expediting claims, processing, curbing fraud, enhancing service delivery, and meeting the growing demands of the healthcare sector. Something similar to what is happening in Kenya with the Social Health Authority and the technology that they're using there. Whether or not Tanzania will be better than what the Kenyan experience, we wait to see. 8 days to go before the elections. Samia still on her campaigns. She says, my plan to end recurrent Rufiji floods. The CCM Union presidential candidate Samia Suluhu Hassan yesterday pledged to end the recurring floods that have been destroying homes and washing away farms and crippling livelihoods in Rufiji Valley. I think that's the equivalent of Budalangi in Kenya. Kule floods every year. New details emerge as widow regains title deed in plot owner dispute, and I think that's a story that features prominently on the front page of the Mwananchi. It is there also on the front page of this paper. Pale juu, student attrition, the hidden crisis of higher education globally. Matters of education given prominence in Tanzania, also in Kenya as well, because today the KCSE exams kick off officially. Maybe not the theory papers, but a lot of the practical and other papers begin today. So that's The Citizen. We'll be back to take a look at the local dailies in depth shortly. But for now, let's take a look at the weather forecast. Yesterday we were focusing on Kitui because that's where the Mashujaa Day celebrations were held. But today we switch gears and we go back to other places, and we start off still in Ukambani, in Makueni, away from Kitui. It is quite warm this morning at 18 degrees in Makueni, areas around Wote and Kibwezi. It is a cloudy day, highs of 32 degrees in Ukambani. Where? Makueni kuna joto kweli. I do not expect any precipitation there, 0.0 millimeters. And this will portend for the rest of the week, 32 degrees on Wednesday, which is even higher, 30 on Thursday, a bit of precipitation on Thursday, and getting into the weekend. Monday next week, even warmer at 33 degrees in Makueni. Let's go up north to Turkana. Turkana is also quite warm this way, even warmer, 27 degrees. Now, 27 is probably what many people may experience in Nairobi at the highest. When we say Nairobi is hot, like yesterday afternoon, it was 27 degrees. Now, that is what people in Turkana are feeling now. Yet, it's a cloudy day, but the highs in Turkana will get to 33 degrees, a bit warmer than what we are seeing in Makueni. This is the coldest this week, because once we get to the weekend, it'll go up to 36 degrees. No precipitation at all, 0.9 millimeters. That one you can't even feel. Something similar portends in Garissa as well at 24 degrees this morning, feels like 26. It's also a cloudy day, highs of 36 degrees. So you can actually see the trend. It's warming up across the country. By the weekend, it will get to even to 37 degrees on Monday. Now, this should be considered risky high temperatures, which and I think people should be given an advisory to hydrate and ensure that they get shelter from this kind of heat. At the weekend, it will get to 37 degrees. Right now, it is 24. It will get to a high of 36 today. That's as far as Garissa is concerned. The Mount Kenya region, a bit cooler, 14 degrees in Meru currently. It is a partly cloudy day, highs of 24 degrees, very comfortable weather there. And this will portend for the rest of the week. Expect some showers at the weekend. But today, As far as precipitation is concerned, a moderate 3.3 millimeters of rainfall in Meru. Lake Victoria region, where there has been a lot of focus, especially in areas around Siaya, but today we look at Kisumu. It is quite warm this morning at 19 degrees, also mostly cloudy. Highs of 28 degrees, still very warm, but a bit of rainfall expected, especially in the afternoon, 1.6 millimeters. Now, the highs here, 28 degrees, will portend for the rest of the week, and the weekend we do expect some more rainfall. Even tomorrow, a bit of rainfall expected in Kisumu. Finally, we come back to the city, Nairobi, and ni kama inataka kupotea kidogo, lakini we have no choice but take a look at the weather in Nairobi, the city in the sun. All right, and there we have it, 14 degrees Celsius as we speak right now, quite cool, and we do expect some slight cooling over the next 4 days, and this is according to this website. It is a cloudy day, highs of 26 degrees, a bit lower than what we saw yesterday, and yes, it will cool down tomorrow 25, Thursday 24, Friday 23, and that will portend for the weekend before it starts warming up again starting Monday as well. But we do expect a cooler weekend from what we're experiencing now, but very minimal precipitation, if any, in Nairobi. All right, at exactly 13 minutes past 6, let's take a look at the traffic situation in Nairobi. Yesterday being national holiday, we did not have any traffic in Nairobi, but today we're back to normal traffic. You can see the Pangani interchange is building up slowly, nothing out of the ordinary. Up on Thika Road is looking good all the way from Ruiru down up to Muthaiga interchange. Kiambu Road too is looking good. Now, the only problem we're seeing is on the eastern side of the city, especially areas around further Tasia, because the traffic is not on the route heading towards town, it's actually here, heading towards the airport, heading towards the interchange, heading towards the opposite direction from town. This is where we have traffic all the way from further opposite pipeline. That's where we have traffic, meaning there must be an incident on this road that's affecting traffic, and most of these people are hoping to come back and head towards town on this other side. So probably if you're on this side, if you're coming from Utawala and areas around Nyayo Estate, probably you can actually get faster towards Donholm before others get there, because there's chock-a-block on that route. Once you get to Jogoo Road, it's looking good. Makadara area, City Stadium roundabout. A bit of traffic on this section of Muthurwa, opposite the Machakos bus station, which is not normal as well. This area here, Landis Road, a bit of traffic there. So that's the traffic situation. A bit unusual in sections like even Pangani interchange building up nicely, areas around the Utalii Drift, Muthurwa, and further Tasia. So that's the traffic situation this morning as people try to get back to work after a 4-day weekend. Definitely kutakuwa na shida pale. Most people probably had traveled out of town to come and celebrate in Nairobi. They're heading back to work. Let's take a look at the quote of the day.
Some people want it to happen, some wish it would happen, others make it happen.
Right, Raila, Baba, what next? That is what features on most of the dailies. Let's come back and take a look at the local dailies in depth. Shujaa wa mashujaa, ukurasa wa mbele wa Taifa Leo, na kama nilivyoarifu awali ni kwamba Raila Odinga aliaga dunia Jumatano wiki jana na wiki iliyopita, na akazikwa mnamo Jumapili. Bado yuko kwenye kurasa za mbele za magazeti yote hapa nchini. Wanasema ni sherehe za kitaifa za Mashujaa Day za mwaka huu zilizofanyika jana katika kaunti ya Kitui zilitumika kumuenzi zaidi aliyekuwa waziri mkuu marehemu Raila Odinga aliyezikwa Jumapili. Rais William Ruto aliongoza hafla hiyo katika uwanja wa michezo wa Ithokwe mjini Kitui. Alimtunuku Odinga tuzo ya kitaifa ya juu zaidi nchini ya Chief of the Golden Heart of Kenya, CGH. Habari kamili kwenye ukurasa wa pili. Pale chini kuna picha ya Rais William Ruto akiwa kule Kitui na mwenzake ambaye alikuwa ndio mgeni wa heshima kwenye sherehe hiyo, Rais wa Jamhuri ya Senegal anaitwa Bassirou Diomaye Diatta Faye. Pale juu habari zaidi kuhusu Raila. Uhuru azuru kaburi la hayati Raila. Na utaona ni kwamba sasa Raila Odinga anaitwa hayati. Sio wengi wanaitwa hayati hata kama wametuacha, lakini Raila Odinga ni miongoni wa wale wachache ambao wanaitwa hayati. Kama hayati Mzee Jomo Kenyatta, gazeti hili la Taifa Leo zinasema hayati Raila Odinga. Rais huyo wa zamani aliandamana na kakae Raila, Seneta Oburu Odinga, siku moja baada ya maziko. Habari kamili kwenye ukurasa wa pili. Gazeti la Taifa Leo. Let's take a look at the Daily Nation. Still a lot of focus on Raila Odinga, and even despite the fact that it was Mashujaa Day yesterday, Raila Odinga was still dominating the discussions. The entire speech by the president yesterday was just talking about Raila Odinga and what Raila Odinga, according to the president, had done for this country. So Raila's shadow looms over Mashujaa Day. They say the former premier posthumously awarded the Republic's highest honor. Now this honor, the CGH, Chief of the Order of the Golden Heart, very few people in Kenya's history actually get that honor. Raila Odinga is among them, and that we got a special Gazette notice yesterday indicating the same. So the towering figure there, a day after the burial, and we have a physical copy, let me just refer to that. A day after the burial of Raila Odinga, memories of the veteran opposition leader lingered over the Mashujaa Day celebrations, with President Ruto devoting a major part of his address at Ithokwe Stadium in Kitui to paying glowing tribute to the former Prime Minister who died last week at the age of 80. Similar messages dominated speeches in the regions, where speakers challenged leaders to observe the ideals that the former ODM leader stood for, including defending civil liberties, protecting devolution, and upholding the rule of law. So that story is covered on pages 4 and 5 of this paper. A nice pictorial on page 2 and 3 of Daily Nation of the celebrations that happened in Ithokwe Stadium, Kitui, yesterday, led by the president and other areas as well, including a picture here of Bomet Governor Hilary Bichok and Acting County Commissioner Ruben Ratemo at Kabungut Primary School grounds in Bomet Central. Yes, Raila's shadow looms large over Mashujaa feet. No politicians made heroes list. That's the other interesting story, because yesterday it was an opportunity to honor politicians, to honor Kenyans who've contributed in different ways to the progress of this country. But the National Heroes Council released a list of people to be declared heroes in the line with the 2025 Mashujaa Day celebrations. And unlike 2024, when politicians dominated the list, this time round, there were no politicians on that list of 184 people. BAMBA gets country's highest decoration. That's also features on the inside pages. Leaders pay tribute to Raila, meaning that Raila was still the biggest discussion yesterday. And as it should be expected. Something that was noted, the opposition leader's snap celebration. Kalonzo Musyoka, who hails from Kitui, interestingly, even Charity Ngilu, the former Kitui governor, were not present at the event yesterday. While Uhuru returned to Raila grave, yesterday was back after most dignitaries left following the burial of the former Prime Minister on Sunday. Uhuru Kenyatta, the former president, was back at the gravesite yesterday. And yes, perhaps the biggest conversation right now, Raila's death redefines the political landscape. We'll be discussing this with my panelists, so do stand by for that. On the back page, 3 Kenyans advance as 5 out on first day fight. This is the All Africa 3 Championships. All Kenyan representatives in lightweight sent packing matters boxing on the back page. Yes, that's the Daily Nation. Same story on the Standard. Honored in death. Baba's spirit lives on. The weight of Raila Odinga's name hung heavy on President William Ruto's heart and tongue as he delivered the nation from Kitui, as he addressed the nation from Kitui during Mashujaa Day celebrations. More than 20 times, the president invoked the late opposition leader's name in his speech, praising his courage and sacrifice before posthumously conferring on him Kenya's highest honor, that of Chief of the Order of the Golden Heart. Now across the counties, governors join in celebrating the man whose death carries a striking irony. Once Kenya's most persecuted politician, Raila Odinga is now enshrined among its greatest heroes. And it's interesting that if you've been following the Kenyan politics for the last, let's say 1 decade or so, a decade and a half or 2 decades, when Raila Odinga has been constantly running for president and unsuccessfully getting it, not achieving that, and everyone, including his rivals at those elections, was united in grief and grieving the former prime minister and befitting him and according him the highest honors of any person in Kenya, only preserved for presidents and heads of state, including the CGH. The Standard has a lot of quotes on the front page from the Kitui governor yesterday. Oscar Sudi Kapseret MP, Kenneth Lusaka, the Bungoma governor, Simon Kachapin was Pokot governor, Fatuma Chani, Kwale governor, all of these who presided over Mashujaa Day celebrations in their respective counties. So that, let's take a look at the inside pages we see. More mention of Raila. Raila conferred posthumously. Raila celebrated as the father of devolution. How we buried a hero on Sunday. Beyond the grave, even in death, Raila refuses to leave the stage. And I think that's a big discussion yesterday. Raila's devolution vision. Kalonzo and opposition leaders skip Mashujaa Day celebrations once again. And Kilifi Odim leaders vow to secure victory in Magarini by election to honor Raila's legacy. Odinga dynasty, Uhuru Kenyatta returning to the grave. That story about how Raila Odinga created so many enemies as he fought for the Mau Forest restoration as well. And a very interesting story on page 9 of this paper. The day Raila's illness shook the nation, a month to elections, and they're not talking about anything in the recent past. This was in 2017. So if you want that story, is on page 9 of this paper. And a lot more stories about Raila Odinga in this paper. On the back page, police has work to do as Nairobi United close in on the CAF History Matters local league football. People Daily, Raila honored by state as ODM power battle kicks off. This has been one of the biggest conversations, especially coming from the speeches delivered during the state funeral of the former prime minister at the Jaramogi Oginga Odinga University in Bondo on Sunday. Now, this is a story that is covered on pages 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 of this paper. The speeches made and the fact that a lot of people are now scrambling to lead the party left behind by the former prime minister, a party that should be marking its 20th anniversary in a few days' time. Gladys Wanga was the chairperson of that party. Oburu Odinga, the elder brother of Raila Odinga, who's now the interim party leader, the Secretary General Edwin Sifuna, Babu Owino, who surprisingly has emerged as one of those contending to lead probably a faction or the entire party, but receiving a lot of criticism. Former deputy party leader Hassan Joho, who is now cabinet minister, and Siaya governor James Orengo on the front page. And that's the only story on the front page of the People Daily 2027 political play. That's a big discussion that going forward, even 21 months to the next general elections, Raila will not be a factor. Or will he? Even beyond death, will Raila Odinga still be a factor in Kenyan election politics? That's the People Daily. On the Star, the same story. Ruto to craft a new power plan upon Raila's exit. A lot of faces on the front page. Gladys Wanga once again. CS Hassan Joho on the front page. PCS Musalia Mudavadi and the Deputy President Kithure Kindiki. So according to this paper, they say that President Ruto's best bet is to lock Rift Valley vote 100%, giving him a head start of 3 million votes. Other interesting stories, because this paper also still features a lot of stories about Raila Odinga, and they talk about 1999, when it was the very first time that Raila Odinga used the presidential jet amid fight with Moi. President Daniel Moi was still president in 1999. So yes, a lot of mention of Raila Odinga as well on the inside pages of The Star. Today's copy of The Star is a free copy, being a Tuesday. It's not for sale. And it comes with a complimentary MyGov pull-out for government tenders and jobs. So you do not need to pay anything for this paper. Fresh, independent, different, The Star. Today, you get it for free. Finally, on the Business Daily, at least they steer clear of matters Raila Odinga, but still make mention of the Mashujaa Day celebrations in the picture there on the front page, where we have President William Ruto greeting the chief guest at the Mashujaa Day celebrations that were held at Voke Stadium in Kitui. And this is Basiru Diomaye Faye, the Senegalese president who was present in Kitui yesterday. But the main story there, 11.5 million Safaricom customers leaked data deal collapses. Safaricom has failed to settle a suit in which it sought to block the sale or transfer of stolen personal data belonging to 500,000 subscribers. Now, two former managers at Safaricom allegedly accessed the shared data, including customer names, phone numbers, birth dates, subscribers' location, gambling records, passport and ID numbers, with a businessman, Benedict Kabugi, for sale to a top sports betting firm. And this, when we discuss matters of integrity of data protection, this should really be concerning, because a lot of Kenyan mobile phone users are on this network. The other story, auditor flags hiring of unqualified staff at the Central Bank of Kenya. And on the ticker, Kenya Revenue Authority signals more cuts on tax waivers and eyes 1.7 trillion shillings in VAT. Elsewhere, veteran stockbrokers are hanging their boots. Veteran stock brokerage firms are exiting the NSE after years of weak earnings, paving the way for a new crop of investors. So yes, a lot of mention of Raila Odinga, Raila this, Raila that, Baba this, Baba that, on all the dailies. And this is what we'll be discussing with my panelists after the break. Let's take a look at the cartoons so that we see what the caricaturists are talking about, and I can assure you it's the same thing. Even the president on this cartoon on the Standard, given two frames on what he said during the funeral of Raila Odinga and what he meant, according to this cartoonist. So according to this cartoonist, what the president said was that ODM will either form the next government or be part of the next government. But this cartoonist feels that what the president meant was that ODM will neither oppose him nor be part of his critics. That's a cartoon on the Standard. Cartoon of the People Daily has a caricature of the president on a bicycle, but this bicycle appears to be moving in different directions, with signages there on one side backing ODM's candidate, on the other side backing Ruto's re-election. This bicycle is carrying a lot of oranges, and it signals the scramble and the inclusion of the president in the scramble for leadership of the ODM party. Interestingly, have you heard the president mention UDA at all? Forget even about the last 7 days. Even in the last 2 months, have you heard the president mention his party, UDA? ODM making headlines. Cartoon on the Daily Nation today has, should we call it Tinga, branded ODM, but different people here struggling with a roadmap. Which direction to go after Raila Odinga? And I think this is the biggest conversation. What happens next? Raila Odinga has been a factor, has been a major factor in most of the elections. I think the last 5 or 6 elections, Raila Odinga has been a factor in this country. Now he's no longer there. What happens next? And that's the question everyone is asking. All right, so those are the cartoons in our dailies, and probably we'll be looking at this with my panelists after the break. We'll be having Kipruto Rapkirwa, who was Agriculture Minister in the Kibaki administration, worked with the former Prime Minister. Samuel Pogisio also worked with the former Prime Minister in Cabinet in the second Kibaki administration. Joe Mutambu, former MP Mwingi Central, which is in Kitui County, is among those people who failed to show up at the Ifokwe Stadium yesterday for the Mashujaa Day celebrations. We'll be asking him why he did not feel the need to attend the celebrations in his home county. All right, so do interact with us on our social media pages, on X at TV47 Digital, on all other TV47 pages, it is TV47 Kenya. That's Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram as well. Use the hashtag Morning Cafe TV47. My handle on X is at Fred Ndimuli. Remember to use that hashtag Morning Cafe TV47. See you after the break.
Our world is changing every day, and so should we, for the better. Each week, we tackle the big why, the question that should be on everyone's minds. Why isn't this fixed yet? Deforestation, global warming, and the adverse effects of climate change. The future isn't just something that we inherit, it's something that we create. Join us on The Green Fix as we tell the stories of those who refuse to give up. When it comes to fixing the planet, there is no time to waste. Join me, Shiksha Arora, on Thursdays at 9 p.m. on The Green Fix as we look into the big why, you and I.
For comprehensive information and education on your health, Body Garage is here.
Don't allow anyone to pluck out your good tooth as long as it is strong and stable.
Cancer doesn't start today and you get the symptoms tomorrow. By the time you pick it or the time it is manifesting in you, probably will be there about 5 to 10 years.
The eye is the window to the rest of the body.
Don't forget to stay hydrated.
And of course, you at home do take your water.
So the ultimate test is actually you check your urine. Your urine should be clear.
Clear like the water?
Yes. Should be able to see the other side of the urine. If your urine is colored or has changed color, you cannot see the other side, then you have not taken enough water.
Don't forget regular health checkups. Early detection saves lives.
I want the message be, we can prevent cervical cancer. We prevent cervical cancer in several ways. You have young girls and even somebody who's above that age, you can pay at least every 3 years. Somebody should have a pap smear done.
If you are 40, 45, 50, going upwards, once a year, please go see a doctor. Yeah, it's just for normal routine maintenance.
Hey there, friends. Welcome to Kids on the Block, where fun and imagination come alive. We dive into magical world filled with exciting adventures and awesome friends.
What position were you in?
I was number 2.
What position were you?
Number 1.
He decided to cross the bridge by his house and look for food on the other side.
We're going to do half cup of chocolate chips, and the other one, we're going to do half cup of the blueberries.
So, grab your imagination hats and get ready to explore with us. Join us every Saturday at 9 a.m. for new friends, amazing stories, and tons of laughter.
Jiunge nasi tunapoangazia safari za viongozi bora. Kutoka kwa ushindi mkubwa hadi masomo magumu.
Wakati wetu kwamba wasichana si wa kusoma, ni wa kuolewa, ng'ombe ipatikane, wazazi wakuwe watajiri.
Tunashughulikia yote.
I wish I were a better investor.
My parents taught me how to look for things for myself.
Tazama Mfahamu Kiongozi, ambapo kila kipindi kimejaa maarifa, mikakati na hadithi za kukuza azma yako.
For me to succeed, I have to fight.
Kila Alhamisi saa 1:30.
Our world is changing every day, and so should we, for the better. Each week, we tackle the big why, the question that should be on everyone's minds. Why isn't this fixed yet? Deforestation, global warming, and the adverse effects of climate change. The future isn't just something that we inherit, it's something that we create. Join us on The Green Fix as we tell the stories of those who refuse to give up. When it comes to fixing the planet, there is no time to waste. Join me, Shiksha Arora, on Thursdays at 9 p.m. on The Green Fix as we look into the big why, you and I.
For comprehensive information and education on your health, Body Garage is here.
Don't allow anyone to pluck out your good tooth as long as it is strong and stable.
Cancer doesn't start today and you get the symptoms tomorrow. By the time you pick it or the time it is manifesting in you, probably will be there about 5 to 10 years.
The eye is the window to the rest of the body.
Don't forget to stay hydrated.
And of course, you at home do take your water.
So the ultimate test is actually you check your urine. Your urine should be clear.
Clear like the water.
Yes. Should be able to see the other side of the urine. If your urine is colored or has changed color, you cannot see the other side, then you have not taken enough water.
Don't forget regular health checkups. Early detection saves lives.
I want the message be, we can prevent cervical cancer. We prevent cervical cancer in several ways. You have young girls and even
In a colorful celebration of heroes, the Mashujaa Day stage at Ithokwe Stadium in Kitui bore witness to a moment etched in Kenya's history. A moment not just of dance and cheer, but of deep reflection and reverence. In a beautiful tribute, school children dressed in pure white honored Raila Odinga through dance and poetry, creating a formation that spelled out Shujaa Raila. Their poems celebrated his lifelong commitment to democracy and national unity. The celebrations also featured a special musical tribute by a renowned musician who performed Odinga's favorite song, the Jamaican Farewell.
Sad to say I'm on my way, won't be back for many a day. My heart is down, my head is turning around. I had to leave a little girl in Bondo town.
Amid cheers and patriotic pride, President William Ruto took a solemn pause to posthumously award Raila Odinga with the national highest honor, the Chief of the Order of the Golden Heart Award, CGH. The prestigious award was in recognition of Odinga's remarkable contributions to the country and his lasting legacy of leadership and service.
This is the man, the legend, and the Pan-Africanist to whom we dedicate this Mashujaa Day. Raila Amolo Odinga aspired and labored for a Kenya that is free, that is fair, governed by the rule of law, and filled with limitless opportunity for all of us.
Traditionally reserved for sitting presidents, the CGH has also been awarded to a few select individuals of extraordinary impact, including the president of the African Development Bank, a former UN Secretary General, and the leader of the Aga Khan Development Network. The late Prime Minister and opposition leader Raila Odinga now joins that distinguished league, not for the office he held, but for the values he embodied.
It goes without saying that it is precisely because of great and irrepressible giants like Raila that we find within ourselves the courage and inspiration to go further, to dream bigger, and to pursue higher ideals.
Odinga's legacy is now etched into the story of Kenya, a true shujaa whose courage and conviction will continue to guide generations to come. Andrin Kilemi, TV 47.
And now, in any reference to Raila Odinga, you have to mention CGH, Chief of the Order of the Golden Heart, the highest honor in Kenya's history, only reserved for heads of state and very few other individuals as well. That is where we start our conversation this morning. We're privileged to have in studio Samuel Pogisio, who served as ICT Minister in the Kibaki II administration. That is a grand coalition government where Raila Odinga served as Prime Minister. So when we refer to Raila Odinga as Prime Minister, that period between 2008 and 2013 is a period, and Samuel Pogisio was ICT Minister in that administration. Later on, he served in the Senate as Majority Leader in the 12th Parliament, also a Senator of West Pokot, and before that as MP of Kachiliba. Bwana Pogisio, it's good to have you back in studio after a long time. We do understand that you are out of the country for some time. Probably this is your best period to speak about the events of the last few days and reflect on the death of the former Prime Minister.
Thank you, Fred. let me take the first opportunity, here at the studio, to still send my sympathies and condolences to the family of the late Agwambo, Raila Amolo Odinga, Baba, and now CGH. That's a very important addition to the honor. And to thank the President and the government for actually according him the highest honor you can give Raila, including actually the state funeral, which was very interesting because it goes without saying that once you've given someone a state funeral like that, which is basically the level of the President's, then the award on the CGH is almost a given. It follows then. So, and I want to thank Kenyans for turning out and expressing themselves and mourning our beloved former Prime Minister, who to me was a friend and a mentor and advisor. He was my boss. I remember when I was minister, he was directly my boss. But interesting that I first of all knew his father, Jaramogi Oginga Odinga, when I went to Parliament as a very young man in 1988. And interesting story, because one of the things that got me in trouble with the government of the day was that when in 1988 Jaramogi was a persona non grata, literally. Nobody was allowed to be seen with him, talk to him. And then my naivety when I came into to Parliament, the first thing I did when I saw him at the state opening of Parliament, and he was isolated. He was sitting alone. Nobody could reach where he was. And I've always wanted to meet this old man. I said, this is my chance to meet him, not knowing that I was getting myself in trouble, political trouble. So I walked in and sitting over there, I went to say hello to him. And when he knew I was a young man from West Pokot, he engaged me longer than I needed to get engaged. And by that time, the cameraman had come in, and a photograph had been taken of me and him, and that really became a serious photo. Now, I get to know Raila later. When now, of course, when he came to Parliament as a member for Langata. But before that, followed a lot of what he had done, including getting into trouble, being detained, having been in prison. So I followed this young, very politically active man. And so when he came, we quickly were able to, that's the time, by the way, when he came in, especially in 97, now when he came in 97, that's when I'd come back as MP for Kacheliba. And, I would serve in Kanu, 1997. By the end of that term, I had become an assistant minister for education, science, and technology. And around that time is when, about that time when he had joined KANU. 2002. And he had joined KANU, not joined KANU, actually the merger. If you remember that merger of NDP and KANU, during that merger, which really caused problems for KANU, Raila, I was the MC for that function in Kasarani. I was a co-MC actually with Job Omino. And it was very intense. And as he was coming in to become the Secretary General, how to propose him to become the Secretary General. I think it was William Ruto who proposed him, actually. And who proposed him? Was it William? Somebody, I think so. But no, it wasn't William Ruto, because William Ruto proposed to Uhuru Kenyatta as vice chairman. So we were replacing people who had been there for years, and new people were coming in. It was very tense for KANU. I mean, you couldn't imagine the KANU without the old Secretary General, without the former vice chairs, including the late George Saitoti, who lost his vice chairmanship that time in Rift Valley. So yeah, I mean, it was a good thing. If you look at the old videos of the time when that conference was going on, you'd see that I was shuttling between consulting the president and going to announce, because you had to consult the president that time. And I got in trouble for that as well, because the people who were replaced in Rift Valley, for example, they got very angry. They thought I was the one doing it. But I was consulting and coming back to dictate. We had already met and decided who was going to be the vice chairman for this area and so on. So it was a very interesting. Raila comes in and becomes Secretary General, and then 2002, the candidature problem starts. And when that team walked out, they walked out and left KANU in a shell. And KANU has never recovered from that moment. So Raila's, actually I was suspecting that something needed to be said about KANU and Raila. Because I mean, this is how you come into a house, and when you walk out almost with everything.
And there are people who thought that probably that is what Raila Odinga was planning, that probably he got into a broad-based arrangement with William Ruto, probably with a plan to walk out. Do you think that there's some truth to that?
Let's assume that by his death, he has walked out. His powerful position, let me just say that his total commitment to the ODM party, for example, you can see that the president, William Ruto, since Raila passed on, has endeared himself more to ODM. In fact, when I came in, I heard you asking the question. You've not heard him speak about UDA in the last so many days. And I keep thinking, yeah, what is it that Raila has done? He probably also leave UDA in a situation, because it looks to me like another merger is in the offing, or something like that is in the offing, so that it could leave one other party in a shell again. I think the intention that Raila had, which I think is still lacking in this country, is establishing a political party with principles, with a manifesto, and that is not temporary, and that is meant to basically change a country. Okay. And he did that by making sure that ODM party would last 20 years in his time, under his leadership, would last 20 years. Right. Now, the people that, the more recent presidential candidates have very interesting philosophy, that they don't have that kind of philosophy. Because if they had that kind of philosophy, KANU would still be a strong party, keeping a party for so long with its philosophy and so on. So they keep changing, rebranding a name, and also new party coming in. If you remember, when Uhuru Kenyatta came in, he abandoned whatever party he was, which was KANU, and moved into a new arrangement so that he could be elected. And that arrangement would later be taken off, and another arrangement come in where William Ruto would run on, even Uhuru's second term, and then that goes. And then you have Ruto now come in, William Ruto come in with a new arrangement again, so that he can be elected temporarily. Raila stayed put, even when he moved himself to a coalition arrangement, his political party remained there. He never wanted ODM to disappear or merge, or to be basically to dissolve. So I think he had, when people say he loved this country, he wanted to see the change in this country, he meant it. If you want to do and maintain and keep a democratic space in the country, you must retain certain parties with principles, certain parties that when I enter there, I mean I am in that space for something I believe, for beliefs. You will not know how many parties are in the United States. There are many. But the only two parties that you will know, you are either a Democrat or you're a Republican. Okay. In the UK, it's the same. The many other parties you never hear about, but the ones that you hear about have remained for years and years and years. Okay.
Yeah. Let me take you back to something you said, and it's and I've seen even the papers have drawn comparisons between father and son. Raila Amolo Odinga with his father, Jaramogi Oginga Odinga, who served as Kenya's first vice president. And he did not get to enjoy the kind of honors that we see Raila Odinga enjoying, the honor of getting this award, the commendation, Chief of the Order of the Golden Heart, a state funeral with full military honors. Are we saying that between the two, and now you've interacted with both, that Raila Odinga was probably more consequential than his own father, politically in Kenya?
Well, basically, the father did not get the opportunities that Raila had. If you ask me if in future you really want to, you should really have considered Jaramogi those days with this kind of honor. Because Jaramogi, as you remember the history of Kenya, had the opportunity, if he wanted, to grab the premiership of Kenya. That he was convinced that while Kenyatta was still in prison, he could actually accept an appointment to be the Prime Minister in Kenya. He didn't. He said, I'll wait until my colleagues come out. If other than that, then they had, but he immediately started differing with Kenyatta And when Kenyatta took over, he became vice president, then they differed and so on. So it becomes a bit difficult. He didn't have the art that Raila developed later, which is the ability to say, okay, fine, okay, I have lost here, but we can still get together and work. He was a strong opposition when he stood in the opposition. There was a time when President Daniel Moi wanted to work with him, literally. Later, you know, for him to serve in one of the, you know, boards or something like that. It didn't take long. He started to grow the opposition again. And so the father, and that's again where they kind of parted ways with Raila, because the Mzee continued to be part and parcel of the position to Moi. When Moi won the elections, Raila would have come back and said that we can work together. The Mzee didn't have that kind of thing. And there was a time when he really was getting, as we thought, and because I remember when I came to Parliament again, we thought that at this point the Mzee would continue to now work with the president. And then he, with President Moi at that time, that's our president, and he, but you know, remember the activities of 1992, when now they became very strong against Moi in 1992, and he led as part of the forward movement and so on. And if he had enough time with handshakes and a party that was lasting longer like Raila's had, he probably would have been the same. But they were not, I mean, he came from the old school. Philosophically, you know, they grew together, I think. Father and son. The father and son. I think philosophically they grew together. Because by the time that Raila was going to Germany, and it's probably because they were more left of center. And those days, Jaramogi worked closer with Russia. You know, remember they built the hospital. That hospital in Kisumu now used to be Russia Hospital. And so it was a bit difficult to be reconciled when you are doing two different things in opposite directions. And so if Kenyatta did not recognize him when he was his vice president, you know, I don't even think whether he got the EGH or whatever honor he got. I don't know whether.
Even a state funeral as the first vice president of this country.
He didn't get that. Yeah. Later, and again, this year, you have to give it to the younger presidents, okay? The older presidents were a bit slow in honoring people. They were very restricted on whom they honor and so on and so on. The younger presidents, starting from Uhuru, started expanding these honors. For example, members of parliament who get honors used to be very few. But now, you could see that I think out of parliament alone, you would have like 60 members of parliament getting honors. It's a very high number. And some of them, the citizens of this country said, how can you award people like that with honors? Because we know them, and so on. So they criticize that. Yes. So I'm just saying that. So if Raila lived during those days with Moi and so on, I don't think he would have got the honors that he got.
Yes. Do you feel like probably there's a dilution of these honors, commendations by the state? Now that you mentioned that quite a number of politicians and the younger presidents have opened up the field to so many people to earn the commendations. Do you feel it's diluted now?
Well, to some extent, it's been diluted to some extent.
And does that affect Raila's honor yesterday, being honored?
No. The one, let me say this: if we just stopped at something like the fact that we've given, Raila was basically at the level of a president in his life. But that has been grown over years. It did not just come immediately. You know, there's a time when he didn't, you know, he couldn't deserve. But over the years, Raila has come to be a different person. There was a time when he was just rebellious. I mean, remember the days when he would face Moi regime, which was a very tough regime. It would be more like what's going on in other countries right now, where the opposition is first of all jailed before they go. So Raila put up, he built his career. And I keep thinking, because he did not become a rural member of parliament, and you know, he could have been elected anywhere in the rural areas. For example, if he went to Nyanza, he would have been elected in any constituency those days. But he chose to remain in urban settings. And he became a big political influence in all the urban settings. And that, I think it's deliberate. I think it's deliberate. So he grew his crowds, started growing his crowds within Nairobi and then the other cities, Mombasa, if you went to Kisumu, Mombasa, even all the Eldoret, Nakuru, and Kakamega, all those cities, Raila became, and then he became a big newsmaker. I remember, he would come out of detention as if nothing had happened. He's the most battered leader that you could find. Beaten. I read the story where his eye, I think it was Koigi who even spoke about the eye, how somebody wanted to remove his eye. And he was battered, but he would come out and grew that strength, that commitment to democracy, to change, and plus the resilience in his physical strength. Being able to come out of detention, walk into detention. But most people don't understand this, that the detention of those days was a very brutal detention.
Yeah.
And the prisons of those days were very brutal.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bwana, allow me to cut you short there because we need to take a short break. When we come back, we'll continue with this and we'll be asking the question, do you think if at all Raila Odinga was not in a broad-based arrangement with the president that he would have been conferred that honor of Chief of the Order of the Golden Heart yesterday? That after the break. You're watching Morning Cafe.
Our world is changing every day, and so should we, for the better. Each week, we tackle the big why, the question that should be on everyone's minds. Why isn't this fixed yet? Deforestation, global warming, and the adverse effects of climate change. The future isn't just something that we inherit, it's something that we create. Join us on The Green Fix as we tell the stories of those who refuse to give up. When it comes to fixing the planet, there is no time to waste. Join me, Shiksha Arora, on Thursdays at 9 p.m. on The Green Fix as we look into the big why, you and I.
For comprehensive information and education on your health, Body Garage is here.
Don't allow anyone to pluck out your good tooth as long as it is strong and stable.
Cancer doesn't start today and you get the symptoms tomorrow. By the time you pick it or the time it is manifesting in you, probably will be there about 5 to 10 years.
The eye is the window to the rest of the body.
Don't forget to stay hydrated.
And of course, you at home do take your water.
So the ultimate test is actually you check your urine. Your urine should be clear.
Clear like the water?
Yes. Should be able to see the other side of the urine. If your urine is colored or has changed color, you cannot see the other side, then you have not taken enough water.
Don't forget regular health checkups. Early detection saves lives.
I want the message be, we can prevent cervical cancer. We prevent cervical cancer in several ways. You have young girls and even somebody who's above that age, you can pay at least every 3 years. Somebody should have a pap smear.
Welcome back. A day after Mashujaa Day, we continue looking at the headlines, and of course the name Raila Odinga features on most of the dailies. He was the biggest discussion yesterday, even in the speech they addressed to the nation by President William Ruto, mentioning him more than 20 times. He was conferred with the Chief of the Order of the Golden Heart, which is the highest honor in Kenya, and that is what we are probing now. And the question is, do you think that if at all Raila Odinga was not part of the broad-based arrangement, that President William Ruto would have actually probably honored him with this award, and even the state funeral that we saw? Before I even introduce the other panelists, Bwana Pogisio, kindly answer that.
You know, BAMBA is a colossus in this country. The rules allowing, he would have been given by Uhuru Kenyatta if he died, because I mean, this is a man who is either winning the election or coming very close second to an election, and so on, and is therefore basically he was co-president many times without even walking into an office, and basically. Maybe even the family didn't expect this. Nobody expected that he would be given a state funeral or be given CGH, because this posthumous. That is not an expectation, okay? That comes after you've declared that this is going to get a state funeral, which means you've already put him in the category of the presidents. And because the president has been magnanimous to that, he is justified in giving Raila Amolo Odinga the CGH. Very few people would think about, I think, the Aga Khan the other day, and maybe a few other people, president of the, I think it was president of the Africa Development Bank, and many other people who have gotten it. But it is really prerogative of the president. Very rarely given. Very, very rarely, except for a sitting president. A president now like the one who came from
Senegal.
Yes. From Senegal. If, for example, you wanted to award him, it is okay. You would have honor called CGH. So for Kenya, it has always been the person who becomes president who inherits it immediately. You don't have to be given literally. You just inherit it because you become a president of Kenya. Right. So, but I do support, if I were president, if there's a person who deserved this in Kenya, it'll be Raila Amolo. Even if it's the exception rather than the rule, I would have given it to Raila Amolo.
Right. Allow me to welcome Kipruto Arap Kirwa into this conversation. Bwana Kirwa was the agriculture minister in the Kibaki One administration, also got to work with Raila Odinga, even as MP for Cherangani for 4 electoral cycles. Karibu sana, Waziri Kirwa. And we're just comparing, because yesterday Raila Odinga was honored posthumously with the Chief of the Order of the Golden Heart award by the president, plus the state funeral, which even in comparison to other state funerals that we've seen was quite elaborate with military honors and everything. And we're just getting the comparison between him and his father, Jaramogi Oginga Odinga, who was the very first vice president of this country, but did not get to enjoy any of these honors despite the stature that he occupied by the time of his death in 1994.
Well, first of all, let me once again condole with all the people who knew Raila, including the family members who were so closely associated with him. And also appreciate that the fact that Raila, more than any other leader in Kenya, has occupied that space of being almost controlling or influencing 50% of the population for close to 20, actually slightly more than 20 years. Remember, from 2007, Raila has been losing, whether because of certain manipulation or whether those results were true, and let's assume they were true, has been influencing close to 50% of the voters, either 49, like the last general election, 2007, and in between. And also amplify the fact that Raila went beyond the popularity of his own father. His own father was almost like seen to be a leader from Nyanza province, or Luo Nyanza for that matter. But Raila was able to capture like 4 or 5 more constituencies throughout the country. This therefore means that the kind of send-off that he was given, it was befitting. Thanks to the government of the day, and thanks to the mourning style of his own people. Because the way I saw it, Raila in death, just in life, was able to defy every rule in the book. Remember, we were supposed to take him to Limo, to Lee Funeral Home. Then we take him to Parliament, and the following day, Nyayo Stadium. That was not to be. He was taken to Kasarani because people realized that Parliament would be overrun by the number of mourners that were interested in viewing the body of the late Raila Odinga. And as they went to Nyanza, his home, they were also able to almost overrun all the rules in the book, including coming back later on and threshing all the flowers and everything. Because one thing the government did not understand is the fact that every community has its own style of mourning. And therefore they should have understood that the Luo nation and close supporters of Raila needed to be given a chance to deal with him the way they wanted. Remember, they came, they did not do anything apart from destroying the flowers. They stayed there until the grave was cemented. All the things that were to be done, they are the ones who watched. They presided over Raila's funeral because people wanted to make it such an official thing. But mourning does not have respect officialdom. And I'm happy later on the government was able to remove what I would have called government funeral. Because when you talk of the state funeral, it's the totality of all of us. Because state includes those in government, those in the opposition or minority, and everybody else within the confines of the state of Kenya. But when you say state funeral, and somebody who has been with him for the last 15 years, either as running mate or as a close associate like Kalonzo Musyoka, you ignore him at the Nyayo Stadium, you mention him like he's just myself or the Honorable Bogisho. And Mother Karua was a running mate in the last election. You don't even mention her name. You see, that is where I realized the government wanted to make a lot of capital out of Raila's death. And I hope, if you saw the Gazette notice, I hope before even Raila died, the president had put him in the Gazette notice that he was going to be given CGH. Because I have a feeling that if President Ruto was doing his final term, he would not have given Raila the attention that he gave him.
Do you think,
it was more political, yes?
Do you think, for example, in the same note that probably he only received the honors because he was part of the broad-based arrangement, that if at all he wasn't, then probably CGH and even the state funeral, it would just have been like Jaramogi's funeral?
Or even lower than that, because the government would have shunned. Remember, President Daniel Arap Moi was able to attend the funeral of the late Jaramogi Oginga Odinga, just because he appreciated that this is one of the founding fathers of the nation of Kenya, and therefore he deserved that kind of attention. But I'm sure if he was not in broad-based, and if Ruto was doing his final term, Raila's funeral would have actually been done by the community the way they find it fit. Otherwise, I think it was more politics than just honoring a man that we all respected.
All right. Now, the big question going forward is, and I think this is the main question everyone is asking, what happens next? because Raila has been a factor in all the elections since 1997, even before in 1992, but at least in 1997 he ran for president. In 2002 he endorsed President Mwai Kibaki and basically campaigned for Mwai Kibaki. He ran again in 2007, 2013, 2017 and 2022, meaning that for the last 6 elections in Kenya he has been a factor. Now he's no longer there. Bwana Pugisio, do you feel that posthumously Raila Odinga could still be a factor in 2022?
Well, thank you. And first of all, just to add to what Mheshimiwa Kirwa had said about the honors. I mean, Raila never asked for these honors, by the way. That's the other thing about it. He never asked. If he had wanted this honor, he would have asked, would have influenced to be given the year before, or wherever, or even the day of when he had a handshake with Uhuru, when he had a handshake with, so he did not ask. And I'm sure nobody asked for these extra things that he did, because Raila would be okay being a people's person and simple person. I think that's why the people were not satisfied with being kept out of things, which comes with having a state funeral. Now, Raila Amolo Odinga, for the next, at least for the next election, will still be a factor, a big factor. And his influence is going to be carried through that one period because of his strong party that he has grown, ODM. It's probably the strongest political party we have in this country. That has been built over the 20 years that he has done. His influence, if you could see from the mourners, his influence is not necessarily in the elite, whatever society, but the population, the wananchi, the ordinary people, really rally around him. If you hear him called Baba, it will be that way as we mourn him, but it will continue that way until the next election. Partly because he has built up people and a party that's admirable. So his influence will be there. It may be waning as we go because he's not there physically, depending now on who takes on the mantle. And I can say this without having to sound discouraging to anyone. You cannot replicate Raila, okay? And you cannot replace Raila by one person. I mean, this person has been built through different forces that have molded him, including his days in Germany, molded him, including the days of his detention, imprisonment, and whatever he molded him. The torture he's received molded him. And the way that he has built and retained a strong party. You see, Jaramogi, his influence was limited. Raila became Jaramogi and more. And so to replace him is not easy. And so the people who want to run ODM must really begin to think that you cannot just say one person will replace Raila Amolo Odinga. No, you must think about how to keep that legacy going without thinking that any of you is capable of replacing Raila. I mean, everybody who spoke at the funeral in Siaya said, I was brought up by Raila, everybody. Everybody says he was my advisor and so on. So among all these people, so who then can become a Raila? His influence is going to be there for some time, and that's why I think President William Ruto wants to associate more with ODM party now, because that influence is still going to push part of the electorate to vote for anyone that aligns with Raila Amolo Odinga, and I think that's the thought. However, it's still a mourning period, okay? We hope that after all the 7 days of mourning, I know that part of the ODM party will definitely split. ODM party will probably split. Although they are saying it will never split, but I mean we are students of history, I mean, we are we are students of politics, and we are practitioners of politics, and we know what happens when the vision bearer has departed, and so on. So we really hope that that the influence of Raila Amolo Odinga will still be the influence for the sake of the country.
Yes.
Yeah.
And if we may make comparisons, because the other probably consequential leader of that stature probably is President Daniel Moi, that when he exited office, was he as consequential in the successive elections after that? And despite the fact that he was present, even in old age, and at least 2 elections happened while he was still alive, we did not see that kind of influence. Do you agree, Bonakirwa, that probably Raila Odinga is someone different, and even in death, his influence could still be felt in 2027?
Well, Raila can be defined in so many parameters. Raila the person was somebody who was able to mix with any section or any stratum of our population. He would be at ease with the ordinary people. He would also be at ease with intellectuals. He would be at ease with even international players or diplomats. And therefore would be able to discuss at every level. Raila, you would find him in the afternoon possibly having late lunch with diplomats at the Serena. Then by the evening, you would find him at Mama Oliech having fish with ordinary people. Not any leader that I know today of the stature of Raila would be able to do that with ease. And you would find that he's actually relaxed. He's not doing it just for the sake of the cameras. He's doing it because he believed everybody deserved his attention. That is something that will be lacking from any leader who takes over ODM. Raila was also a system in the sense that whatever was said and whatever he was about to decide, you would just hear. You did not need to look for him. You just needed to go to a Juakali, whether it is in Homa Bay, whether it's in Kitale or even Turkana, or somewhere in Mandera, and you'll find that that system was already informed of the likely decision Baba was going to take. The third issue that is Raila was an institution that he was able to create the dynamism that every system must have, build institutions that are independent and can operate independently, but also they are interdependent with other institutions within the same system. That is something that will be very hard. I have the example of him being able to agree with the moderates. I call them, the moderates are those people who are now talking of broad-based. And he was also able to agree with Edwin Sifuna, who seems not to be of the opinion that there is need for us to work with the government of the day, that ODM can chart its own path regardless of whether they're in the opposition or in government. So that is something that I know whoever is taking over from Raila, whether it is the current acting party leader or any other person to be appointed, will not have all those attributes. Raila never rested. Actually, it is now that he has rested. Because Raila, you would meet him at 9 o'clock somewhere in Karen. By 11 o'clock, he's somewhere in Lavington. By 1 o'clock, he's somewhere on Mombasa Road. By 3 o'clock, he's on his way to the airport to fly to Mombasa to be received the following day in a function that may last the rest of the day. So that is something that I don't, even at my age, I don't have that capacity. I don't even have 50% of that capacity. I choose to rest when I have to rest. That's why I came late and I apologize. But Raila never rested. It is now that he has rested. And if President William Ruto wanted to have any benefit of ODM, he should actually fold UDA and Kenya Kwanza and defect back to ODM. Okay. After all, he was part of the Pentagon. That's the only way he can capture certain amount of votes that are captive to ODM spirit. Otherwise, he will not enjoy what he thinks he will get.
Talking about the parties now, because we were talking about Raila Odinga, the person, but the party, and I think it's very difficult to detach the ODM party from the person of Raila Amolo Odinga. And the question is, the scramble that we saw, and this was probably the very first indication of what we could see politically going forward, is a succession within ODM. And whether it will still remain within the leadership and the structures that were created there, or President William Ruto will have a hand in what happens in that party. And yes, Bwana Pugisio, you got it right that we were questioning the fact that President William Ruto has not made mention of UDA anywhere in the past 2-3 months. He does not talk about his party, but he talks about ODM quite a number of times. And that could be indicative, and there have been suggestions that he could run for re-election on an ODM party ticket. Do you see that as probably the best bet for ODM survival, having William Ruto use that party as his vehicle for election, for re-election rather?
Fred, except for the few, for some of the members of ODM who have declared clearly that this is what we heard from Baba before his passing, which was included Sifuna and others, who said, Baba said we will participate in the elections coming as ODM. The rest decided to say that this Baba left us with William Ruto and we're going to stay with William Ruto. Then buttressing what is, I think now, what Ruto believes to be, William Ruto believes to be that he has the support of the majority of ODM. And I think then, if you saw, I would be very surprised that he's not heading towards ODM. I'll be very surprised that he's not, because during the funeral he mentioned he actually became a member of ODM. You remember? During the burial, he said he's basically gone back. I don't know. I mean, if you are a member of UDA and then you go shouting ODM at the podium, you're basically saying, this is where I am. And he has accepted. I mean, he has said, I was a member. He says that several times. Because it's so important now in the political environment that we're in right now, heading towards elections 2027. It's a scramble for ODM right now. Whatever piece of ODM one can get, because that is a big chunk of people. I mean, every political formation now, including the United Opposition and others, will definitely want to get a piece of this ODM. And I think Raila himself did not commit ODM totally to one side, okay? So he left it so free, he left it almost open, so that there is room for whatever formation to actually engage, and let me tell you what politics is about. Politics is about inclusivity or whatever it is. I think we call it inclusivity or belonging. If I remove Kipruto Arap Kirwa from his position, he will find a position elsewhere. This is what politics is about. I mean, so ODM, that's how the party splits. If, for example, I come and displace Secretary General, Secretary General moves to somewhere else to find another space, and that's why they have to be very careful how they handle whatever transition is going to happen. And I think that's why they found it fit to give Oburu the acting leadership, to act as a party leader. Because there is a lot of friction underneath him, and everybody wanting to be the one to do it. If I were to advise, don't desire. If I were to advise a lot of these people, don't desire right now to be a party leader in that party.
No deal.
It's not easy. Let things cool down, and let people bring you up if you are the one to be given that position. because it's going to be a hot potato in your hands.
And one of the reasons why is because most of those people who vie under the ODM party ticket really have depended historically on Raila Odinga for his endorsement. Once Raila Odinga shows up on your campaign trail, in Luo Nyanza, it's more or less given that yes, people will elect you. Now he's gone. Is there any other person, even if they were to follow William Ruto, would they get the same results? People who are seeking re-election or even election on the ODM party ticket, would they get the same result if they were to chant William Ruto's name?
I don't think whether it is the current president or any other person, the role Raila played in that party was so huge that not a single person will be able to fill the shoes. And I wanted to be very emphatic and advise my brother William Ruto. He does not need UDA because all the UDA supporters are in UDA because of William Ruto. And there is no supporter in UDA that will say, why has Ruto left UDA? The fellows in Kenya Kwanza, some may run away, but he has swallowed a number of them, including Musalia Mudavadi's party, ANC. The person who may run away is Moses Wetangula because he's also a political animal and he joined our side. But the best advice for him, he can start with that constituency, but not ODM throughout the Republic. It's ODM in the Luo Nyanza. You will start with that block of close to 2 million people. Perhaps you will have replaced half of what he has lost in Mount Kenya region. Then he can also struggle. At the coast, they may be amenable to him. So the ODM supporters and those who voted for him in the last election may also go with him. And perhaps a section of the Maa community and then the former Northeastern province. So for me, he was to advise William Ruto, he should even forget about what we call Kenya Kwanza. Dissolve everything. Whoever voted for him in UDA from the section that he comes from will still vote for him. Now, the party for the president is ODM. And I want to advise him. You know, I used to advise him until the Honorable Bogisho made a joke out of it. So I'm advising him again that the party of choice for him, if he has to have a certain level of fighting chance, is to be in ODM. And to be in ODM and allow ODM to have free and fair elections. Half of the current members of parliament from Nyanza province or from the old Nyanza province, especially the Luo Nyanza, will lose their elections because they got direct ticket in the last election. This time around, people are looking for a chance to score with them. And therefore, you should allow free nomination exercise. And ODM will survive to the extent that they will be having a presidential candidate.
So ODM will still be consequential in
consequential, but if President Ruto co-opts ODM as a partner, ODM will shrink in size. Because anytime you don't present a presidential candidate, you lose a lot of opportunities to galvanize the imagination of Kenyans. And therefore, you reduce in numbers of senators and other positions of elective positions. So my advice to ODM, either present your own candidate or you run the risk of disappearing after the next general election.
All right. And we've asked the same question on TV47 Kenya. That's our Facebook page. Raila Odinga's passing marks the end of an era. What does this mean for Kenyan politics? Who fills that space? And what becomes of ODM? Quite a number of people have contributed to this discussion. Matthew Samuel says it has a great impact. Now they'll need to strategize carefully. Fred Mokwa says if they left it in the hands of the broad-based sycophants, led by some of those people given prominence in the party now, it will be reduced to a tribal local party. Gladson Obwamu says the death of Raila will for sure change a lot of things politically because ODM will have to learn to love or to live without their founder. Elections will look awkward without him in the ballot, and those who loved him will surely feel his absence. But in general, I see a new dominant force coming up, but that won't affect this election, but the one after 2032. His shoes can't be filled by anyone currently. Apareng Apax Elijah says Raila's shoes, big, no one can fit. Brian Tobias, no one, absolutely no one can come close to be his replacement. Maybe if we talk of Orengo, who is also aging. He goes on to suggest that Miguna could be a good replacement. Mili Ashimosi says no one will be like Baba or let's say Rao. Alex bin Christian, ODM without Raila is an empty home. Colin Slovonga, filling this space, none. On ODM is a matter of when it will disintegrate. Wow. A lot more comments here. Omaso says dissent against Ruto shall slowly vanish. Those who dare dissent, they did under Baba's protection. That's a different angle to it. And what about the politicians who could not complete their statements without mentioning Raila's name? Simply everyone for himself. Rest in peace, Rao. You fought a good fight. That's Lucas Okello. Mohammed Hamis says, Kenyan politics without Baba is like a state without a president or king. Arab Cherusut, only person who will fit Raila's half space is none other than James Orengo once again. And Shelmi Bab says, for me, I stand with Babu Owino and Sifuna. Whichever decision they make, I am in. Plan is to eliminate the oldies and the young generation to take over. Interesting. And everyone is thinking about this, what next? And probably we've talked about ODM, we've talked about William Ruto, but there's the other side of the political divide, and that's the united opposition, and how the exit of Raila Odinga will affect them or influence their politics. Bwana Pogisio, how does it affect? We have two people who have run as running mates to Raila Odinga in the last few elections. Kalonzo Musyoka, Martha Karua, they are in the united opposition. What does the exit of Raila Odinga mean for them?
Well, Fred, first of all, it is befitting to say, to congratulate Kalonzo Musyoka and Martha Karua and the United Opposition guys, congratulate them for participating during these state funerals. They may not have been recognized, but their presence in that Nyayo Stadium and even in Bondo really speaks volumes for. And if there's anything they scored at, in these things, it's because they went to those functions. And a person like Kalonzo surely has been longest with Raila, and they have shared from the days of ODM formation. Remember, before they split into ODM and ODM Kenya, they were together from that time, and they have continued to be very close friends. So the United Opposition has a target to gain from Raila's departure, and they must. It's must be part of their I mean, not strategy, for example, to be able to gain from that. I'm sure the influence that both Kalonzo and Martha Karua set in being very close to Raila will attract quite a number of ODM members to them. And I just want to think that it's a bit difficult to put a blame on anybody, but Martha Karua should really have said something, in my view, having been the running mate, especially in Bondo, where she went, both here. But even then, I liked the way the demeanor they showed. They were very somber, and they did not complain about that because they were honoring their friend. Remember, Raila keeps friends. One of the things that people, even if you differed with Raila politically, he kept his friendships. He kept his end of the bargain as a friend. And a lot of the people, you'll be surprised. You'll be surprised. Nobody knows exactly what I mean, UDA will gain from this. But if you look at the statements from the president in Bondo, the president made a statement which is very interesting, that ODM will either be in government or ODM will be government. I mean, those statements really is to endear himself to ODM and ODM members. And he made all the ODM leaders to actually try to align with him and appeal to their people to continue to stay. One of the biggest problems was everybody's trying to say that this is the last thing that Raila said to me. Okay, I mean, if
without
everybody,
proof.
But you see now, nobody knows what Raila said to Kalonzo or to Mother Karua, to other people. But Raila was a friend to very many people. And he met all these people. He spoke to all these people. He called all these people. And so everybody is giving that story. And one day, Jesus, in one of his conversations, asked his disciples, what do people say, who do people say I am? And they said all sorts of things. And these are people who lived with him. But they said all sorts of things. Some say this, some say... And then when he asked them, what do you say? And then they were completely lost. Until one, Simon Peter, came out with an answer. It's not easy to predict Raila Odinga. This is what I'm just trying to say. However, if the united opposition keep their stance the way they are, they've been very magnanimous, very, very, very supportive of the Raila family and of Raila himself. If they continue to appeal to the people to show that the united opposition has a chance, let me tell you something about the Kenyan politics, is that it's all perception. If people perceive that there's a trend towards the opposition side, people tend to troop where the perception is going. And I think that because I will not say much because Kipruta Rapkirwa is here, and he can probably shed more light on whether there's a strategy like that in the united opposition. So there is a strategy there. There are people who are not in any of this. There are people who are in the center, who also honored Raila, who wanted to vote for Raila, wherever he is. There are people who are there, who are not committed to either side. So you have a good strategy, but you must be able to mention Raila Amolo Odinga in a positive light. All these parties must have, because you need to get some of these people who supported Raila, who are not extremists on both sides, and you must get them to your side. And that's the strategy, I think, that
So probably because there's been criticism, especially online, towards the former Deputy President, Rigathi Gachagua, because he clearly stayed away from the state funeral of the former Prime Minister. Do you think that will be consequential in whichever way? Secondly, the same former Deputy President was very categorical that without Raila Odinga, William Ruto is done. Yes, and he said that William Ruto is on life support and that life support is Raila Odinga. Once you remove Raila Odinga, William Ruto is done. Does that still stand, and is that the strategy?
Well, I think he's been proven right in the sense that to see the way the president behaved, both in Nyayo Stadium and in Bondo, is a clear testimony that he realizes Raila is the only card left on the table for him to survive in the next general election. So that's why he was trying to endear himself to Raila Odinga by saying that they have come a long way. But the least that I know, as far as this history is concerned, of our political landscape, is that they only worked with Raila for 5 years. And no sooner Eddie embraced Raila to win the 2007 general election and also win part of his, a large section of his community, almost 90% of the Kalenjin community went to ODM in 2007. He was again on the trenches trying to undermine the same Raila Odinga. Initially, he said Raila should have been able to demonstrate to us where are the 4,000 young men gone. But subsequent to that, he was able to take a rallying call that is Raila, who was responsible for the eviction of the Kalenjins from the Mau forest, a situation that was not entirely true, because that decision was taken in the cabinet of which William Ruto was part of. And having taken that position, because Raila Odinga, as a prime minister at that time, and the person implementing government policies, was only implementing what the cabinet had passed. So that tells you a lot about, to prove what the Honorable Rigathi Gachagua said, that life support was Raila. And therefore, in the absence of Raila, he still expects the instruments of support to still be intact for the purposes of surviving, for the balance of the time, and perhaps having honorable kind of competition in the next general election. But I feel very strongly that invoking the name of Raila is just not enough. Because if anybody was to invoke the name of Raila authoritatively, it should be the Honorable Kalonzo Musyoka, who decided to be with Raila for 15 years, 10 years as running mate, and even when he was not running mate, he was able to deliver his constituency to the coalition that Raila was part of. And not only delivering that constituency, but the turnout in what is perceived to be Ukambani, what we call Ukambani, where the Kambas are, all the way to Mombasa, where 100,000 voters are from Kitui, was higher than in the backyard of Raila in Luo Nyanza, because Luo Nyanza had a lower percentage. And these are statistics that any Kenyan can just Google and get that information. So Kalonzo Musyoka never spent time saying I was so close to Raila. But William Ruto spent a lot of time that we have come a long way. They were only together for 5 years. The rest of the time he was calling him Muganga, Mzee wa Vitendawili, and all kind of names. And I remember, and I like social media. All of a sudden I'm a fan of social media in the sense that they keep a lot of information. Anything I say today will be picked at some stage when I say the opposite. And that caricature, or whatever we call political sarcasm, will come on my face, and I cannot deny, because I'll realize it's me who said this. I remember whatever is doing the rounds now is saying, why are you calling Raila Baba? Don't you have your own father? And then he himself is calling Raila Baba. And that comes out very nicely to tell you that as politicians, we say what we feel is convenient for our own political survival. I don't know, Fred, whether I've answered your question.
Yes, that one maybe, but there's the other one on Rigathi Gachagua failing to attend any of the ceremonies around the funeral.
I think he did the right thing. I've not talked to him since the Raila passed on the 15th of this month. I've not talked to him. But if I was to advise him, and I like advising my colleagues and friends and those I work with, I would have told him to keep away. Mm-hmm. Because you see, it would have been almost a backlash on him had he gone to Nyayo Stadium. You see, the way Uhuru was received is not because what Uhuru said after Raila passed on. It is because of the history they had with Raila. The fact that he himself went out of his way to campaign for the leader of official opposition and leave his own deputy president. And you've seen that Uhuru has demonstrated that he was genuine to the Raila family. And so the Honorable Gachagua can later on, just like many other Kenyans, because mourning with the family is not the day of burial, is not the day of the death. You can even go after 2 months to say pole to Mama Aida, because that will still be useful for the family. But any other mourner could have been doing it for the cameras. And the cameras are very kind. At times they show us the body language of the person. Like in Nyayo Stadium, if there is the most awkward moment for President William Ruto, it was at the Nyayo Stadium, where the bishop who preached, a very nice guy, told him as is. Then when President Uhuru Kenyatta got that reception, you know, William Ruto has one weakness. He wants to be the shining star. That's why he calls himself a scientist. He calls himself the most educated president, and as if education has something to do with leadership. At times, leadership can come from ordinary people, like the chief, is he called Ngok?
Yeah, Ngok.
He may not have gone to school, but he's a serious guy in West Pokot. I don't know, he may be too old now, but he's a serious guy that any time he talked, the community would listen to him.
Right.
It is not about education.
Still does.
Yeah, President Moi was a high school, a simple teacher.
Primary.
But for 24 years, we felt safe under his hands. Winston Churchill was a Form 2 dropout, but he led Britain, which had more professors than we have today at that particular time. So when you pontificate yourself that you say you are the most educated, as if you went to the last school and the first school, is not really true.
Okay.
Yeah.
And of course, we'll continue examining what the opposition feels and their strategic plan going forward 2027. But before 2027, as you make your final comments, the other thing to consider is the sustainability of the broad-based arrangement. Raila Odinga was a co-principal in that arrangement. He's no longer there. He's a person who is now the party leader able to carry that forward. And what happens to the, if I may call this, the tyranny of numbers in the National Assembly and the Senate that the president has been making use of under the broad-based arrangement? Do you think it'll still be possible to marshal those numbers, especially on the ODM side, now that the parliamentary group meetings without Raila Odinga will be starkly different?
Well, Fred, there is going to be a difference in the way things have been going without Raila Odinga. You know, like Kipruto Rapuro said, is that Raila Odinga was an institution by himself. He was a system by himself. And he had a way of influencing decisions, even in Parliament. And I worked with Raila Odinga, especially when I was leader majority in the Senate. And if there was a vote and it was becoming difficult, you simply had to call Raila, and somehow the difficulty will go away. And you get the votes. It's very interesting how much he influenced. So I know that the broad-based arrangement has kept hope in the current government that it is possible actually to put together groups of parties, different parties, to increase the chances of sustaining. And so what I see is the president who understands politics very well, realizing that Raila is no longer there. He must go back to the drawing board and the drawing board see how some of the potential laws can be replaced. And so you'll see more of these, more handshakes, if I may say, more political parties either dissolving and joining the one political party. So the strategists of that side, of the government side, for example, will definitely be back on the drawing board, and they will still benefit from Arap Kirwa's advice, which he has given today, which is very, if you take that seriously, from there on. There must be, in my view, and you see they've already started with my party, KANU. So the broad-based, in fact, the way that President Ruto has mentioned it, and I think he has said, we want to take this country to the first world, okay? And therefore, I'm going to work with everybody that can support this agenda so that we move forward the country to the first world, from the third world to the first world. And so he mentions the people that he has approached. And I think there'll be many more people, including probably an attempt to enter the current united opposition. And it will be in his strategy to try and break it up. Not to break it up, but at least be able to glean.
As he tries to shore up the broad-based arrangement.
To make sure the broad-based is bigger, is expanded. It's a strategy for 2027. How much resistance the United Opposition has, I have no idea. Hopefully we'll be told.
Wanakiro is here, he can tell us more about that. But yes, do you see that there could be problems for the broad-based arrangement? Because probably now there will be a lot of focus on 2027, but the sustainability of this deal that was already signed, given the fact that Raila Odinga was a main person to marshal support from ODM and direct them towards supporting the president.
I want to agree with the Honorable Bokisho that the dynamics have changed completely, and the president should actually go back to the drawing board. And what he should do, the first thing he should do, is to allow ODM to have its own succession plan and get a new leadership that is acceptable to the people across the board. It is at that stage that he can even engage ODM meaningfully, because whoever will be taken as the new part of the new leadership will be respected by the people. You know, Raila was able to midwife the processes, because even at the time the so-called experts were donated to the government, it's not all the entirety of ODM that accepted that arrangement. But Raila had to move and use his father figure to marshal people, explain to them. And I was not part of ODM, but we met one time, one evening, in a place in Karen. And he told me, and I'm not quoting him out of context, because there are many people who say they called Raila, they talked to him. I didn't call him, but we met, and he told me whether I was going to be here for a few days or am I going to Kitale. And we agreed we were going to meet. We didn't meet, so I cannot say anything else. But what he was telling me is that I've been seeing you a bit critical of this arrangement that I have, but I would want us to have a moment. I explain to you exactly why we're doing that. So I may not have that explanation, but in the absence of the explanation, what I can say is that the president should allow free succession for ODM leadership, to the extent that let the young men and women in ODM who feel that they need to take ODM to another page be allowed but not removed from the party. Anything that will remove Babu Wino and Edwin Sifuna from the party leadership is going to spell doom for ODM. You know, ODM has not enjoyed Nyanza alone. And I like dealing with statistics. The Luo Nyanza has been giving ODM 20% of all the votes Raila has been getting. 20%, which means 80% of ODM support is away from Nyanza. And that's the difference between Raila and his late father. Raila was able to consolidate the base at home and go and hunt elsewhere and come back with a booty to the kraal. This therefore means that anybody thinking that ODM is a Luo party is mistaken. And if you are to expel people like Sifuna, people like Babu Wino, calling all other names and almost requesting him to demonstrate his parenthood, is something that I feel is not proper and is likely to spell doom for ODM. So my take simply is, let ODM have its own internal dynamics, then the president can approach ODM as a united entity.
Parting shot, do you think this will be seen or witnessed in the by-elections in November? The fact that everything has shifted now.
The by-elections may not define anything new. The ODM constituencies are likely to be retained by ODM. The only thing is that ODM may not do very well away from the Luo Nyanza in the by-elections.
All right.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed, that's a big question. What happens following the exit of Raila Amolo Odinga, who was buried this Sunday in Bondo? He passed on last week, and that's the biggest conversation. What happens next? And we are asking the same question on our social media pages. Raila Odinga's passing marks the end of an era. What does this mean for Kenyan politics? Who fills that space? And what becomes of ODM? The conversation definitely continues online. Thank you so much, Kipruto Rapkirwa. who served as Agriculture Minister in the Kibaki One administration alongside Raila Odinga, and before that as MP of Cherangani. Samuel Pogisio, who served as ICT Minister in the Kibaki II administration, where Raila Odinga was Prime Minister. He's also served in the Senate as Majority Leader in the 12th Parliament, as Senator of West Pokot, and as MP Kacheliba before that. Well, the dailies this morning have nothing else apart from Raila Odinga, well, probably apart from Business Daily, talking about issues to do with the data integrity at Safaricom. Close to 12 million customers' data at Safaricom leaked, and the deal has collapsed. And that's a big story there on the front page of the Business Daily. But the other papers are talking about nothing else but Raila Odinga. And let me just take you through them. Once again, on the Star, Ruto to craft new power plan upon Raila exit. That's a big one. Honored in death, that's conferment of the chief of the Order of the Golden Heart to Raila Odinga that the president declared yesterday. On the front page of the Daily Nation, Raila shadow looms over Mashujaa Day. It is there also on the front page of another paper. This is Taifa Leo, Shujaa wa Mashujaa, Raila Odinga. And on the People Daily, Raila honored by state as ODM power battle kicks off. After the break, we switch gears and talk matters education. KCSE beginning today officially, and as even we anticipate the KGCSE and KPSEA exams to come in a week's time. But for now, ladies and gentlemen, that is the state of the nation. My name is Fred Indemuli.